Once upon a time, in a small, picturesque village, nestled in a lush valley, there lived two men whose lives couldn't have been more different. The village was like something out of a fairy tale, with quaint cottages, cobblestone streets, and an air of simplicity that seemed untouched by the chaos of the modern world. John, the first of our two protagonists, was a wealthy businessman known throughout the valley for his opulent mansion that sat on a hill overlooking the village. He owned vast expanses of farmland and controlled a number of successful businesses. His wealth was legendary, and he was often the talk of the town, though not always in a positive light. David, on the other hand, was a poor farmer who eked out a modest living on a small piece of land near the outskirts of the village. He was unassuming and humble, living in a small cottage with a thatched roof. David's life was characterized by hard work and a deep connection to the land. While he didn't possess much, his heart was rich with kindness and wisdom. One sunny morning, as the villagers went about their daily routines, a curious twist of fate brought John and David together. John had decided to visit the village, intrigued by the tales he'd heard about the simple, idyllic life led by the people there. As he strolled through the village square, he couldn't help but notice David, who was tending to his small garden. John approached David, struck by the stark contrast between them. With his finely tailored suit, polished shoes, and a gold watch that gleamed in the sun, John was the epitome of wealth and success. In contrast, David wore worn-out clothes and had a tanned, weathered face that spoke of years spent toiling in the fields.
Hello,
John said, extending a hand.
I'm John, and I couldn't help but admire your beautiful garden.
David wiped his hands on his trousers and shook John's hand.
I'm David.
He replied with a warm smile.
Thank you. I put a lot of love and care into this garden.
John was immediately taken by David's humility and the simplicity of his life. He found himself intrigued by this farmer who seemed content with so little. They began to chat, and over the course of their conversation, they discovered a mutual appreciation for life's lessons, despite their vastly different backgrounds. As the days turned into weeks, John and David's friendship blossomed. John would visit David regularly, and they would spend hours in deep conversation. David shared stories of his ancestors and the age-old wisdom passed down through generations. John, in turn, regaled David with tales of his business ventures, his travels, and the knowledge he had gained from his experiences. One warm summer evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, John and David sat on the porch of David's cottage, sipping tea and gazing at the stars. John felt an odd sense of peace and contentment that he hadn't experienced in a long time. He realized that, in David's company, he had found something more valuable than all his wealth, a true friend. Over time, their friendship began to transform both of them. David learned about investment, leadership, and the nuances of the business world from John. John, in turn, imbibed David's simple, yet profound, wisdom about the importance of community, compassion, and a strong work ethic. He discovered that life wasn't just about wealth. It was about the richness of the human spirit and the connections we form. One summer, as the village prepared for its annual festival, John and David decided to collaborate on a project. They used David's agricultural knowledge and John's resources to sponsor a community event that brought the village together in a way they had never experienced before. The festival was a tremendous success, and it left a lasting impression on the villagers. As their friendship deepened, the two friends became inseparable, bound by their shared experiences and a mutual appreciation for the lessons life had to offer. They visited each other's homes and families, experiencing the joys and challenges that each other's worlds presented. They laughed together, cried together, and supported one another in times of need. However, as with any tale, there came a point where conflict reared its head. A powerful developer from the city had his eye on the village, seeing it as a prime location for a new resort. He offered to buy David's land at an exorbitant price, promising to turn the village into a bustling tourist destination. David was tempted by the offer, knowing that it would bring him and his family great wealth, but John had reservations. John, knowing the developer's reputation, suspected that the village would lose its charm and sense of community if the resort were built. He cautioned David about the potential consequences of the deal, but David was swayed by the promise of riches. The two friends found themselves at odds, their differing perspectives on wealth and values clashing for the first time. Their disagreement caused a rift in their friendship, and for a time, they barely spoke to each other. David went ahead with the deal, selling his land to the developer and pocketing a considerable sum of money. The resort construction began, and as John had feared, the village started to change. The quiet charm and sense of community began to erode, replaced by the hustle and bustle of tourism. As the rift between John and David deepened, the villagers watched with sadness as the once inseparable friends became distant strangers. The annual festival, once a symbol of their unity, was marred by tension and division. The turning point came when the resort construction caused environmental damage to the beautiful valley. The pollution and deforestation began to affect the quality of life for both the villagers and the surrounding flora and fauna. Realizing the consequences of his actions, David was overcome with guilt and regret. He sought out John, who was equally unhappy with the changes in the village. Their reunion was fraught with emotion, as they both acknowledged their mistakes. David shared his deep remorse for the decision he had made, and John expressed his regret for not being more supportive during David's difficult choice. Together, they decided to take action to mitigate the environmental damage and work toward restoring the village to its former beauty. They united the villagers in a collective effort to clean up the valley and protect its natural resources. As they worked side by side with their friends and neighbors, John and David rediscovered the strength of their friendship. Through their collaboration, they managed to halt further environmental degradation and work towards revitalizing the village's charm. Over time, the village began to regain its unique character and sense of community. In the process, John and David learned important lessons. David realized that wealth, when pursued without regard for the values that matter most, could have destructive consequences. John understood that life's richness didn't come solely from money, but from the relationships and the wisdom we gain along the way. Their friendship was stronger than ever, and the villagers, inspired by their collective effort, celebrated their unity in an even grander festival than before. The village had learned that true wealth lay not in material possessions, but in the bonds of friendship and the shared values that define a community. And so, in the end, the tale of rich man, poor man became a story of two friends who discovered the true wealth of life, a wealth that transcended money, property, and status. It was a wealth found in the warmth of friendship, the wisdom of shared experiences, and the values that bound a village together in unity and harmony. It was a wealth found in the warmth of friendship, the wisdom of shared experiences, and the values that bound a village together in unity and harmony. As the years passed, the village continued to flourish, not just in terms of prosperity, but in the richness of its spirit. John and David remained steadfast friends, a testament to the enduring power of true friendship and the life lessons learned from one another. And so, the story of rich man, poor man lives on as a reminder that in the grand tapestry of life, true wealth is measured not by what we own, but by the love we give, the wisdom we gain, and the friendships we nurture.